Hello. I've taken up AI and the internet, and in the last video, I talked about database. I showed you a basic SQL query in which a table was retrieved, a table was fetched, then a row was fetched, and so on. You could have a single cell from a table fetched, and so on. These are things that are, conceptual, and if you're good with those things, you can answer a lot of questions on aptitude tests, and you don't have to actually, again, those questions involve elimination, and you have to apply your mind to what the options available are and things like that. The thing is, today I'd like to discuss academic databases. I'll extend my discussion on databases, and we'll see how you can benefit from your knowledge of databases and your information on academic databases to learn how to find the material for your study, and to enhance, to learn research skills and so on. So academic databases, for example, years work in English studies, YWES, online. Okay, years work in English studies database online. It may be that it requires access. Qualitative, narrative, bibliographical. Yes, it probably does require access, and you will have to have um, membership of such an institution or something like that to be able to. It's only institutional access. I don't think there is personal subscriptions allowed and so on. So that's one. And you could have things like members can read this publication online. Okay, so you will have to have a subscription. I'll try to look at something which is available for everyone. So, for example, Shakespeare survey journal available from a decade ago or so. Shakespeare survey. Get access. Get access. You could see things I have access to. Show me only things I have access to, and so on. So, in general, the rule of as a rule of thumb, if it's from a certain number of years ago, volume 30, I should have access to this kind of thing. It depends on what the policies they have, check access and so on. So yeah, doesn't look like. And then access is IP based. Access can be IP based access to journals, for example. Find out more about this. So this is your basic ICT, what you are supposed to know at the very least. Okay, so if it's a group of IP addresses that's allowed to access certain material on the internet, that's what I'm talking about. That's IP based access. You already know this from your use of OTT platforms, so it's nothing that's not already there, but you have to keep revising these things, and it transfers to this as well. In fact, it went from this end to that. first there was text and then there was video on some OTT platforms such as Waves OTT platform, right? So, coming back to something that we do have access to, you could have a look at archive.org, and you can see that there is an option to borrow. You can borrow for a certain amount of time or till someone else asks for it, and so on and so forth. And this is how digital borrowing of material works. This is old, that's why you have it there in the public domain. 1959 is the year, right? And that is an example. There can be many. I have known about this one, for example, for 9 years, 8 years at least. No, UMich Middle English Dictionary. So that is a database that you can use. Again, is it a database? Is it bibliography, quotations? That's what you want to look for. I don't know. I'm just giving you an idea. Entire entry, author title, external references. I don't know what those abbreviations mean. Manuscripts. Let's search for this. Okay, I found nothing. Entire entry. Of course, the search will be open. Yes, so Chaucer, life records, editions, facsimiles. What facsimiles are? You should know these things. I mean, this is basic vocabulary if you are a student of literature. So I'll search for England manuscripts. UPenn. You can see University of Pennsylvania. That's from America. Now here you have to pay attention to this fact that if you're researching on a particular thing, records for those topics, the topics surrounding this thing that you're researching on, may be spread over different locations in the world, and this is where grants and research funding and such things come in when you're talking about research in literature, right? So, for example, records of a certain event might be found in several different locations in Europe, let's say. Which reminds me, by the way, National Mission for Manuscripts India. That is a recent National Mission for Manuscripts, and this is for people who would like to do research on Indian manuscripts and so on. That kind of thing. If you're talking about England, National Library or Archives, England, I think the National Archives, that is the place to start. Yeah, love letters, ranging from love letters to all sorts of possibilities. And you can explore this for yourself, pointing you to these things. Okay. So facsimiles. Facsimiles, what a facsimile is, you should know that. Okay. That is, I mean, that is something that you'd expect someone at bachelor's level to know, bachelor's or even lower. Depends on how curious you are, um, how much time you have spent on it, and how much you've tried to find out, and so many things. But yes, you have to see. You can see the search, right? Pride and Prejudice, first edition facsimile, and you have such requirements. You have such resources you want to find when you're conducting literature studies and literary studies, and you're trying to write a thesis for your degree, totally depends on where you're located, what your particular circumstances are. I cannot say for all of India, because in India you have different ways it's done in different universities and so on. So Middle English Compendium, I know about this because I have had an interest in Chaucer, that kind of thing. So that's one. Shakespeare Survey, YWES, Shakespeare Survey, you can see that some of it is available for you to use directly. You can access this on your mobile devices also. And this also reminds me, digitization projects for Shakespeare's works. And then you could talk about Elizabethan works, the Council of Europe. Now, you can see that this is Europe we're talking about. And I'll move to Shakespeare and Elizabethan works. New research project will explore the influence Shakespeare had upon how we remember the dead. So I'm reading at the bottom. As you can see, it shows the link, the full link, news.exeter.ac.uk, ending in remember the dead with hyphens and so on. So Shakespeare's first folio has already been digitized, and if you are interested, you can have a look at this link. Town's web archiving. This is something that's new to me. .ac.uk is .academic.uk, so it's obvious that you're looking at university sites. I already I have been talking about Karapathy and this blog post that I mentioned yesterday. This particular RNNs and how to generate text like Shakespeare's works and things like that. So that's a project from years and years ago, and today we have the latest from deep learning, artificial intelligence, AI is how it is popularly known. And Karapathy is, I think, is at Tesla, or last he was at Tesla, and then I have not been following the updates. But yes, digitization is going on, and this is true for a lot of places in the world, starting with Europe and America and so on. So you already have access to these things, and when you don't have access, you reach out to people, you reach out to organizations, you reach out to libraries, you reach out to anything or anyone that can help you with it, because access to resources like manuscripts, that's something that you'll have to find people to work with, because AI will not help AI will not be able to help you. And when I say access to, and when I talk about manuscripts and things like that, I don't know how many of you already had this thought. It is bound to occur to anyone. But if you read David Edges, it starts with the mention of MS this and MS that, MS Exeter, I don't know, when it discusses the very first things in Old English literature, Anglo-Saxon literature is how it is called in Duchess's book. So Christ and Satan is one of them. Christ and Satan, MS. I don't know. Yeah, MS Bodleian Juniors. That's Bodleianus. Oxford digitized, if you could ask. Digital Bodleian. Yeah. Um, Bodleian. I'm okay. How to pronounce Bodleian. Bodleian. Yeah. So here we are. We have fully digitized manuscripts. You can see that. This, by the way, is called marbling. Marbling, marbling book. So you have to know this kind of vocabulary if you want to work in those areas, and this may not be an area that is very appealing to you, but just in case. If you're asked about this, I know where I came across something. Again, that's from years ago. I'm stating, came across something that was about demonstrating your knowledge of books when you try to get into publishing and so on. I think I'm sure I'm stating this from the Oxford website. It must be for some bachelor's or masters in master of studies, I guess, in book publishing and stuff like that. So you have to demonstrate what you know about the book, how much you know about the book, and so on and so forth. So if you are talking about a book, you should be able to have something like verso, and this is the vocabulary that you need. So I have mentioned in the slides here. Find out, search for vocabulary on book publishing, publishing vocabulary. Search for book publishing vocabulary, right? So this is the kind of thing you are expected to know when you're attempting an exam. I'm not saying all of this is going to come as questions on the UGC net, not necessarily, but when you're sitting in an interview, when you're actually talking about books and talking with people who've had all of their life devoted to this kind of thing, these things will, I mean, matter. Okay, now again, I will maintain that what's expected may not match what you know, and that is something that is a matter of research, and that is a matter of so you are preparing for an interview. You have to have a lot of match with what the expectations will be, what the expectations then and there will be. So question asked and answer given, open-ended answers have this area of research, you could say, where what's expected has to match what's given for an answer. So that's the kind of thing we are looking at, and that's why it's best to be thorough with your possible or probable questions on the interview. That's why you have so much about it on these job sites and everything. So, coming back to journals, coming back to manuscript, I've already put these things in the slides. So, types of publication, types of book, and so on. So, for example, types of or formats of film based on length, based on runtime. No, I'm not getting what I wanted, but the point is, you could find it here. it's giving me something totally different. The point is, you have shorts, you have full length movies, and so on, right? And it depends on the time period we are talking about. And if we are talking about a particular part of the world, so in the US, a 2 hour movie would be long enough, and so on. So, types of book, types of publication, manuscripts, vocabulary related to these things, and getting back to journals, journals that you have access to. So, literature journals. I have known about Shakespeare Quarterly since 2000 and so on. It's I'm talking about a span of 10 years. Okay, Shakespeare Quarterly. Key journals writing again. That's London Metropolitan University. That's a university site. You could have it anywhere. You could have it on JSTOR. You could have it from a lot of resources. Just a matter of what turns up on the first page of Google and what you look at and what AI picks up and gives you and so on. Literary magazines, and the thing is, AI used for literary writing. If you go through this, half of UK novelists believe it is likely to replace their work. That's coming from the University of Cambridge, and in the coming future, how this is going to change is well worth thinking about. Not as a, I mean, you could have it as a debate with your friends, schools and universities. I'm sure they're already having these things debated both as some matter for policy research and for developing their own programs and so on, and as activities, events in their own right at their organizations and their um, on their academic calendars or co-curricular activities and so on. So the question becomes one of what the arts uh, is going to look like after a certain amount of time, because you have these debates going on ever since the world wars, the Second World War, the utility of history, science, arts debated. That is something that you want to know about. It's been going on for decades and decades now. It's not the first time that this kind of thing has come up to people's focus of thinking, but with artificial intelligence, it's got accelerated exponentially. No, these are not results I'm looking for, of course, and this is another example of how what you search relates with what comes up on Google, and one could do research on this. And if you have to do research on this, it has to be systematic, and you have to have clear record of what you did, how you did, and what the limitations are, and so on and so forth. And then there's this question of what you're sharing with the world. I've already mentioned open systems and closed systems, and this question of open access research, and so on and so forth. Open access research is something that you should know about. Again, open access and closed systems research, as it is generalizable, verifiable, all of these things, they are matters that can invite strong responses, and the consideration of national interests comes into play. A classic example is COVID vaccine, India, and why we got delayed in having our own vaccine. How India missed its, that's how it's reported. How India missed its vaccination target. So I'm not responding to this, but delayed access to COVID-19 vaccines perspective. So the race over getting the right formula for vaccination, COVID, India, and other countries. That is how. That is where. And that is the extent to which it gets. When we are talking about open access and research and who science is for, and race for COVID-19 vaccines accelerating manufacturing one or lost. Yes. So the point being, now that I've said so much, I'll go ahead and say that these things about patents and innovation, patents by country, and most innovative countries in global trends and insights. Let's see. As you can see, you will have a plethora of information on this. This is important because you're talking about Shakespeare. Shakespeare thrived because his plays were popular, and they were for a large section of the society. You can see the construction of the globe theater, pictures from older centuries. So you will find these things in books, sketches, and that's how. So there's a pit, and there's a balcony, and so on. So it depends what kind of ticket you're buying, and where you will be able to sit, and so on. So in books about Shakespeare's plays, you'll find that it was written with a lot of different people in mind, and it was popular, and the plays were protected like anything, and people memorized those plays. Actors probably did memorize those plays and went to their troops, and then copied or borrowed or imitated or varied their plays, companies, acting companies, and so on and so forth. This has been going on since there have been groups competing against each other for things such as copyright and patent and so on. Annual patent applications per million people 2021. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. You can see China, America, and the rest of the world, right? That's Finland and Germany. These are the four which appear to be the most innovative, so to speak. South Korea, Japan. Yes, I missed them. Sorry. Here is South Korea. So South Korea is the highest, right? And Coming back to the topic of COVID, you could, if I were to suggest something, COVID in defense of India. Here's the film. Now, would you watch a film and find out things about the actual event, or would you follow the news and stay informed, stay better informed? I would say both. You cannot avoid films. The issue is that you come across titles of films and posters and so on and so forth more than you come across news headlines and so on and so forth. That is because of advertising as an economic activity. Now, advertising as an economic activity means that any space that can be used to draw your attention will be used to draw your attention towards this service or product that's being advertised there, right? I can go on talking about this. I came across this other thing and I mentioned this yesterday. Please watch the video. The point is, films do have this importance of highlighting things that you may miss because of reasons such as the fact that people generally don't involve themselves in serious activities such as following the news. That is just one example, and then there are other examples, and I'd refrain from giving those examples, all of them, in this one video. But films on Shakespeare in India. So, because I'm talking about research and journals and so on, I'm giving you these things. That's one. Bharat Gupt, that's another. Ancient Greek and Shakespeare and India. I don't know if Shakespeare was there, but yes, ancient dramatic concepts, Greek and India. So that is one source you study when you're talking about India. Geoffrey Kendal, I've been talking about again for years and years. This is all from my own study of these things. I don't know the spelling. Acting troupe, Shashi Kapoor, right? So if you know about Shashi Kapoor, if you read about Shashi Kapoor, you will know about Geoffrey Kendall at some point. You'll get to know about Shashi Kapoor, shakespearana. It says in the AI response that I don't want Prithvi Theatre. So yeah, Jennifer Kendall, as you can see, it's about knowing Shashi Kapoor, for example. If you know Shashi Kapoor, you'll come across this. I came across this because I was trying to find out what Shakespeare has been like in India. That's from years and years ago. Again, it's not the first time, and it's probably not the last time either that I'm going to discuss that I'm talking about this. Coming back to Shakespeare, India, research, and films, these are some examples. Literary database Lion is one database. Please don't mind my typing, and please don't assess me using this activity of mine because I need to get to the link and I get to the link, and it's like the Wittgenstein's ladder. Stein's ladder. Find out about it. Metaphor set out by Wittgenstein. See how much of it is metaphor. That's a great area of that's a host of research questions and so on. So literature online is again access based, and you could go into the debates about access as it is available in the access to academic databases. the world over our world in data. Global, no. I'm asking about very specific things, and I'll have to do a lot of filtering, a lot of refining of this. And this is the exercise. This is what you do when you conduct research. Okay, so you have to come to the right answers, to the right links, and for that you have to be able to get the right words there. It may be AI, it may be a search engine, it does not matter how much similar or different they are from each other. That is again something that is a matter of research, and there's certainly work going on this kind of question as well. The point, however, is you're looking at inflibnet, and you're looking at that's in the Indian context we're talking about. Okay, Shodh Ganga, of course, is the one, but the backbone of all of this is inflibnet. And by the way, NIC is, you should know, NIC Pune. Okay, that I guess should be part of the. In any case, it'll be part of public service commissions, state and national alike. And for UGC NET, I would recommend you to know about these things anyway. These are the main things to know about your own. I mean, about India, about our own country. So in FlibNet, yeah. I don't know if you know about these things, but of course, if you're talking about India, you're talking about Delhi, and you're talking about BHU, and you're talking about such other centers where you have English departments renowned and so on. So global education and data on global education. I don't want this. I want very particular statistics as to access to academic database over the world or world in data. Okay, so let's say ONOS is something that's new to me. Open access databases, that's IIM Kozhikode, which is something you have to look at because it can definitely help you when you don't have access to subscription based material. Academic research, British Council. Yes, point being, I need visualization. I'm looking at something like our world in data, which gives me, I mean, something that we looked at regarding patents, right? So I will give you this as homework. Find out if there is something on the internet that gives you information along these lines, because as you can see, it's unsolved so far. So literary journals, list of literary journals, you can find out as many as you want. List of journals, journals on Shakespeare. Then you have H index, you have impact factor, and you will be required to know these things and other metrics. And then there are retractions, and then so much to find out about. Okay, and then use of AI to use of AI, scholars getting fired, lots of things going on. Hundreds of Google AI workers were fired amid fight. Okay, I don't know what this is. Use AI or your okay, okay. That is yet another strand of the whole issue. Let's call it. So again, this is different from what I'm trying to search, and you can see that I'll have to change my queries to get to the right answers, to the right links, and so on. Anyway, of course, AI will be able to do this better, I suppose. Okay, With AI, you will get to the results faster, I guess. It's a matter of finding out. It's a matter of deliberate, systematic setting out queries and seeing what's happening and what's not happening. That's one research idea. You could try it on your own and publish your results. You could submit it to a journal, but definitely this is part of the very many original ideas I've been sharing. Anyway, Shakespeare Studies journals, you can find them here. I'll just click any link, it does not matter which link, and there'll be an overlap. So let's say there are x number of links. X by n will be an overlap. X can be 25, and there can be an overlap of 80%. So that'll be 1 by how much? That's your aptitude test. That'll be 3 by 4, right? 1 by 4 minus from x by n, right? So I'm not doing it on paper, I'm doing it on the fly. So you can do it on the fly as well. Depends on, these things are totally dependent on your practice. If you've been doing these things in so much time, you will be able to do them very fast. And then there is Vedic maths and so on. And then you could talk about learning methodologies, and something I said about this yesterday as well. So I will not get into those debates again. Yeah, this is what this has to say. University of Illinois. Yeah, and then you will have so many sites giving you so many things. Let's write Oxford research. Yeah, Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship. That is a different question. Authorship questions. Shakespeare articles. Oxford Lib guides. English language and literature journals. Yeah, this is what you can look at. Now, a note on. Yeah, I'll rest it here. A note on this: the Were Society. The Were Society is, I think, this is the Earl of Oxford, and part of this debate. Oxford, Shakespeare, Oxford Fellowship. But I must say that you won't find questions on the exam that go to this depth, because again, how much of Shakespeare is part of the questions, and then in Shakespeare, to what depth? That is the so. Now there is something else that I can share on this, but I would refrain from doing so, because this is again hypothesizing, and it's all in history, and you can't come up with it unless something comes up that clearly tells you that this historical document, unless something to the contrary comes up, is proof that this is how. So history. How do you prove a hypothesis? That's where you, and there is a question in GMAT, by the way. So anyway, there is a question, at least one question in past GMAT papers, official guide, GMAT official guide, if you come across it, historical documents, how would you verify something is or something is not the case, and so on. And again, I can give you other films names and so on and so forth, but I'll keep them for later so that I have something to share in other videos as well. So that's it for this one. But this view was rejected. That is what AI has to tell me. Most Shakespeare scholars who find sufficient evidence for now evidence, that's getting into provability, something like that. Provability, if something like that exists. Yeah, that's that's what we are looking at. Who knows? I mean, if it were not for Hemming and Condell, who got the works collected and everything, we would not have Shakespeare as we have it today. So that's another example of metaphor, by the way. Shakespeare referring to the works, not the author himself. So metaphor is something that language is, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to extend language. You wouldn't be able to come up with new vocabulary altogether. So metaphor is a good subject to research. That's one takeaway. Of course, you can see that, and we'll keep discussing stuff from these slides in the coming videos. Thank you for watching. Please find out more on things that I've told you about. You can download the slides from here, thelanguagefollow.com/downloads. Thank you.